Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Intuitive Angling, and really appreciate you guys checking today's video out and spending some time with me, because we're going to be talking about 3 Megabass lures that every bass angler needs to own that cost under $10 a piece. These are not the famous Megabass jerk baits. These are Megabass, I guess you call them soft baits. But these guys, these things are freaking awesome. I'm going to show you each one of them, all 3 of them, give you guys some tips and advice on how to fish them in today's video. And I definitely think it's going to be worth having a few of them in your box for the season coming up here. So really appreciate that. Also, guys, before we get started, just want to invite everybody to please hit that subscribe button here at Intuitive Angling. If you guys like the channel, like the video, if you guys hit that subscribe button, like the video, share the videos, it's a good way to help out. And also, guys, in prep for your spring season, please check out my Fish the Moment lake map breakdowns. We got our spring maps up right now. Great resources to get some good places on your favorite lakes. So I'll put the lake map breakdown link in the description there. I really appreciate that. Okay, guys, the 3 that I'm going to talk about here, these are without a doubt they're in the top 10 of my favorite Megabass lures. You guys know I've been with Megabass since 1992. You know, I helped design the Megabass Vision 110, but out of all the Megabass lures they make, guys, the last probably 5 years, I've probably caught as many bass on these 3 baits I'm going to show you right here for Megabass than any of them. And we're going to be talking about the Megabass Sleeper Craw, the Megabass Sleeper Gill, and the Megabass Dark Sleeper right here. So we're going to get into that here in the video. And what I want to do is I want to go over each one of these lures, and I want to talk about the applications for them and where they work, little tips and advice on how to fish them. And they're freaking so fun to fish, man. They look so good in the water, so let's get into it. Also, guys, I'll link every one of these baits in my Tackle Warehouse link in the description of this video. You guys would like to pick one up through that Tackle Warehouse link. It's a good way to support the channel. Okay, the first one let's talk about is the Dark Sleeper. Now, this is probably the most well-known one. This has been out for several years with Megabass. It's been copied by other companies. You guys have seen other companies that have tried to knock this off, but this is the original. This is the OG Megabass Dark Sleeper. And let me tell you a little story about this particular bait, then I'm going to talk a little bit about, you know, how it's set up and how you want to fish it. The first time that I used the thing, I had just got some from Megabass. They were prototypes, and it was June down at Table Rock Lake. This has probably been 5 years ago or so, right when they first came out. And anyway, I was down there, and I had some baits I wanted to test out for Megabass. I'd never thrown the Dark Sleeper before, and I was catching some fish on a football head jig out off of some main lake gravelly points. So I said, man, I'm going to try this Dark Sleeper and just, you know, sort of see how it works. So I was throwing it out there, you know, just fishing it, sort of like dragging it along the bottom, sort of like I would a football head jig, and maybe just hopping it off the bottom a little bit. And I knew I knew that's the way you wanted to work this one, guys, because this bait is not designed to be worked through the water column like a swim bait. It's got a flat keel lead weight on the bottom, and it sets up like that on the bottom. So it's designed to be fished on the bottom. It's not designed to be fished through the water column. So I was just hopping it through the bottom like that and dragging it, wasn't catching much. And then all of a sudden I got thinking about some of the days I've had up at Lake St. Clair, snapping a tube really hard off the bottom like that, and in that clear water for smallmouth. And actually what the deal was is I was getting ready to go to Lake St. Clair for an FLW tournament, so I wanted to see if this bait would work up there. And guys, I started snapping this Dark Sleeper, like bam, hard off the bottom like that, where just go bam, about 2 or 3 feet off the bottom. Guys, I absolutely destroyed them on that with this. Probably caught, I don't know, 60 fish that day, and probably half of them were smallmouth. And what the deal was is 90% of the time I'd throw it out there, I'd snap it off the bottom like I was cracking a tube or something like that. And as soon as you snapped it like that, like at the top of the snap, the fish would be on it. Maybe 10% of the time it would fall to the bottom like that. But that is the success that I've had with the Dark Sleeper more than anything else, is snapping it really hard off the bottom. Now, it comes in 3 different sizes. Now, this is the 3-inch size right here. It comes in a 3.5 and a 2.5 inch one. I have caught a bunch of fish on the 2.5 inch one, like throwing it to the bluff banks and stuff and just working it down the bluff bank like a jig, not on point, but just on a bluff bank. But guys, under the right situation, super deadly. Again, it's got the keel weight on the bottom. It's got the hook buried back in the dorsal fin here. It's got a nice sharp, it's probably about a 1/0, super stiff hook in there. Little piece of advice I will give you on this, because I noticed I did lose quite a few fish on the dark sleeper until I started doing this. Just take a pair of pliers and just bend that hook up a little bit. Bend it up like maybe a 1/16 of an inch, and then trim a little bit of that guard off of there, and your hookups will, you know, skyrocket as far as you don't hardly ever lose one like that. Now on the 3" and the 3.5" I fish it on a bait cast rod, usually like some type of the 7-foot medium heavy 10-pound test Seaguard Vizex line, and the 2.5" model I fish on the Megabass whip snake spinning rod with 6-pound test Seaguard Vizex line. So that's how I set it up. But clear water bait, guys, that's not going to work very good in off-colored water. So you need water visibility, probably at least 3 feet. This would be minimum. Ideally, I like that water visibility to be about 4 to 5 feet with that. A great smallmouth bait, guys. I've caught smallmouth on it everywhere I've went. Kentucky Lake, up north, here in the Ozarks. Megabass dark sleeper there. Okay, the next one, we've been talking about this a little bit over the past week. This is the Megabass sleeper craw. Now, it's the same type of deal, guys. You've got a keel weight right here, and the keel weight keeps it on the bottom, and these pinchers are super buoyant. So this thing, when it's on the bottom, it stands up like this, and these pinchers, they sort of flare out like that, and they stand on the bottom like they're fighting the fish, like a fish is coming down on them, but the pinchers are floating like that. So that's one of the reasons they get a lot of strikes on it. It's got a nice stretchy tail on it. You can't pull those off. Looks identical to a crawdad. It comes in a lot of different colors. And again, it has the hook buried in the top, just like the dark sleeper there. I do the same thing. I bend the hook out a little bit with it. So let's talk a little bit about where you want to fish the sleeper craw. Sleeper craw is a great springtime lure. Pre-spawn is the best time to fish this, when the water temperatures between, like, say, you know, upper 40s to upper 60s is going to be the best time for the sleeper craw. Now, I started fishing it initially when I first got the sleeper craw. I thought it was going to be a great bait for like fishing like where you would a football head jig, fishing out on the deeper structures, dragging it on the bottom, and I couldn't catch much on it, to be honest with you. But guys, I was down at Grand Lake. I was actually down there doing some filming, not for the sleeper craw, but from other stuff. And I just had it tied on one of my rods from fishing at Table Rock, fishing it like a football head jig. And I was pitching and flipping creature baits and, you know, jigs and stuff like that on laydowns and around docks. And guys, I just had it laying out, and I started pitching that sleeper craw around some laydown trees at Grand and started whacking them. And that's been my #1 way to fish the sleeper craw, is pitching it and flipping it around shallow targets. Docks, laydown trees, stumps, logs, shallow grass, gator grass, water willows, stuff like that. This is a great pitching and flipping bait. It falls pretty slow. It looks just like a crawdad. Fish don't see it very much, but it has been one of my staple springtime flipping and pitching lures for sure. And also, guys, I've also caught fish in like May and June fishing it like a swim jig. Just throwing it out there, shallow cover, keeping my rod tip high and just shaking it just like you would a swim jig, but Megabass sleeper craw. And finally, out of all 3 of these, my favorite, by far, this is the Megabass sleeper gill. Again, guys, this thing has been copied like crazy by other lure companies, but make no mistake, this is the original Megabass sleeper gill. Same deal, you got the keel weight on the bottom like this, where it stands up. But guys, this is one that I do fish like a swim bait. When I got all these baits here, every single one of them, they were so new, nobody really knew how to fish them. Nobody had experimented with them. So I did the same thing with the sleeper gill. I was fishing it in deep water, dragging along the bottom, you know, trying to fish it like I would a normal swim, like a swim bait. But when I figured out how to use it, again, I was down at Table Rock Lake, and I just had it tied on, and this was a late April, May time frame, and there was a lot of fish shallow, still garden fry up in shallow water. And guys, I started skipping this thing underneath docks and just going down the bank, and keeping my rod tip high and keeping this thing just about this far under the surface where I could see it coming back all the way. And guys, freaking annihilated them on it. It was unbelievable. And also in that same deal, there was some water flooded in the bushes, and I started taking this thing and reeling it right next to those clear water flooded bushes, again, keeping it in sight. And guys, they would come out of nowhere and just absolutely annihilate this thing. I mean, hit it just like a live bluegill. And the cool thing about this sleeper gill, it's a large enough profile bait that attracts a big fish, yet it's small enough you can catch 2-pounders on it. It's got this big wagon tail on it, guys. It has a lot of vibration and action. Guys, this thing is if you could get one bait, if you could buy one bait from Megabass, get this sleeper gill, guys. This thing is just an incredible lure. It comes in a lot of different color patterns. They got a ton of different like perch patterns that it comes in. Again, all the link in the Tackle Warehouse description of the video here if you can get some, if you want to get some there. There's just a lot of different color patterns. But the thing about the sleeper gill is just pretend like it's a spinnerbait. So let's say you're going down a bank and you're just casting your spinnerbait to targets along the bank and you're reeling that spinnerbait just under the surface where you can see it. Do the same thing with the sleeper gill in clear water. All of these guys are better clear water baits, every one of these, because they are visual. They got the attention to detail, and these baits are so realistic that they do better in clear water. So definitely get you one of these. I usually fish this on 7-foot medium heavy action bait cast rod, usually 15-pound test Seagar and VizX. It skips really, really good. If you guys like to skip jigs or something, this sleeper gill, guys, will skip way back up underneath the dock. But guys, I can't tell you how fun that was that day at Table Rock. There's a lot of walkways and cables, and I'd skip that thing underneath those cables and I'd start reeling it real fast like that. And those fish would come out of nowhere. I mean, since it does look like a freaking live bluegill I mean, look how realistic that thing is. Coming through the water like a live bluegill like that. They attack it more viciously than I've seen any other bait. I guess just trying to kill the thing. But anyway, guys, that's 3 baits you want to get. Dark sleeper, Megabass, sleeper craw, sleeper gill. Links in the description of the video. Pick a couple up, guys. You won't be sorry, man. They're fish catching baits for sure. I can tell you. But just give them a try and hope it helps you guys out. So we'll talk later.